executive order to keep DC safe. And we also today are bringing a whole of government partnership dedicated to the elimination of criminal cartels, foreign gangs, transnational criminal organizations, and trafficking rings that are operating in the United States and abroad pursuant to the Homeland Security Task Force initiative created by President Trump. The what? In a 5-count indictment, we have charged 11 defendants in a transnational drug operation, charging conspiracy to distribute methamphetamine, the conspiracy to distribute substances containing methamphetamine, and substances containing gamma-butyryl lactone, or GBL, which is commonly abused as a precursor for the sedative GHB. The latter is one of the most pervasive date rape drugs currently available. The indictment also charges 3 of these 11 defendants with money laundering and 1 defendant with 3 counts to commit this distribution of meth here in DC. My office opened this investigation 2 years ago after we learned that DC-based targets were distributing meth and GBL in DC. And that stemmed from information from an overdose death. This indictment follows a long-term, expansive, far-reaching investigation by the DEA and the IRS. Now, historically, my office has worked to target some of the most prolific and dangerous drugs in DC, like fentanyl, cocaine, crack, PCP. However, meth and GBL appear to be emerging threats in the District of Columbia that we hope to eradicate with proactive investigations and indictments like the one today. Meth and GBL are often mixed together as a party drug, and that makes them even more lethal. And CDC research shows that methamphetamine is the second most commonly found drug among individuals who fatally overdose. And GBL is a Schedule I narcotic that upon consumption, the body metabolizes into GHB, the date rape drug. Now, we have seized 5,000 pounds of GBL. Each liter of GBL produces up to 1,000 dosages, and each dosage is the size of the cap on a water bottle, resulting in up to 600,000 dosages per monthly shipment of 600 liters, which has a conservative street value of $3 million a month and over 40 million in the 14 months that this indictment covers. We've seized over 75 pounds of methamphetamine, much of it with 90% purity, and this represents 140,000 individual dosages with a street value of over $8.5 million. The how. This investigation is a classic example of vertical prosecution, where investigators start with local distributors and build out the drug trafficking network for maximum impact. You can see from these posters on the left the transportation of the drugs. We identified a drug trafficking network operating through the East Coast, primarily through the Acela corridor from New York City, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and DC. And the GBL itself was moved from South Korea to New York and New Jersey. And then from New York and New Jersey, it came through the Acela corridor to Washington. Now, the flow of meth came from Los Angeles to New York and directly to Washington, D.C. We believe the meth originated in Mexico. So, folks, this was not a low-level drug operation. This was a sophisticated transnational network run by well-educated individuals with MBAs and college degrees. They wanted to start a drug empire. As part of their scheme, the conspiracy set up a sham several sham shell corporations, both in New York and Washington. And they dedicated and named themselves as a beauty product company so they could more easily import the GBL from South Korea in huge quantities at a rate of 600 liters per month. Several of these defendants actually created fictitious W-2s from the sham companies, withdrawing salaries that were never paid and allowing the corporation to actually take tax deductions and the co-conspirators to reflect income that was never received for loan purposes. And as you can see over here, the GLB is a liquid. This is what was seized in Seoul, South Korea. And we also have GLB that was seized at JFK. And they are wrapped to look as though they are beauty products, which of course they were not. Now, as a result of the takedown, GLB is a liquid. And there was a woman by the name of So-yeon An who was sending GLB throughout the world, including Australia, Europe, and the United States. She is now being housed by the South Korean government in their prison facility. But working with our South Korean counterparts, prosecutors and agents identified South Korean suppliers to shut down the exportation of GBL from South Korea. And as a result of our work, South Korea was able to identify and arrest 5 South Koreans and seize 1.6 tons of GBL, the largest domestic seizure of a controlled substance ever recorded in South Korea. So here in the United States, we have 11 defendants. Last week, we arrested 7 East Coast-based defendants, and we executed 25 search warrants across 6 judicial districts, including in DC, Baltimore, Alexandria, Philadelphia, Manhattan, Brooklyn, Albany, and Miami, all of them federal districts. And this morning, we arrested the 2 California defendants and executed 2 more search warrants. During those additional takedowns, we got $150,000 in cash, more methamphetamine, and more GBL, ketamine, as well as cocaine. So far, an additional defendant, Gregory Wallace, is now being charged with gun possessions as part of his, or in furtherance of his narcotic trafficking, as well as conspiracy and intent to distribute meth and GBL. Based upon the quantities that we have charged, all of these defendants face a mandatory minimum of life, of 10 years and up to life on count 1. Now, let me note that one of the defendants we have just been able to identify by the name of Artemio Jacoba Magana. He is an illegal. We are trying to find out exactly where he is from, but we are continuing to execute search warrants, and there is no question that this will actually spring out to more cases. Now, I'd like to call on some of our partners in this takedown, and we couldn't have done it without them. First, I'm going to ask DEA Washington Division Special Agent in Charge, Christopher Gomenes, to speak. Hi, Chris.
Thank you, Judge. It's tough going after Hirsch, one of the best people out there.
Oh, I'm going to give you a coin.
Thank you, Judge. Look, it's an honor for DEA to be here today and to stand alongside our many partners, HSI, U.S. Postal Service, IRS, of course, U.S. Attorney's Office. We'd like to thank President Trump in particular for the opening the door for this type of collaboration. This takedown is a direct result of partnerships that were born out of executive orders such as Making D.C. Safe and Beautiful, as well as the Homeland Security Task Force. DEA has been committed to a safer capital, a safer nation's capital since day one. When asked to serve and in what capacity, DEA will always answer the call. Under the leadership of Administrator Cole, we started almost a year ago when he was the interim police commissioner, And under his leadership, along with President Trump, we're continuing into what you see today with the Homeland Security Task Forces, the Safe and Beautiful Task Force, everything else. DA Washington Division initiated this investigation into this DC-based crew and organization after the death of one of our DMV residents. The organization was responsible for trafficking methamphetamine and GBL across the country, as well as from South Korea into DC, as the judge said. They distributed it all over the place, as you can tell by the different places that we've done search warrants in the last couple of weeks. This investigation was conducted not only by us, but DEA Task Force Group New York, Metropolitan PD, Internal Revenue Service, Criminal Investigations, U.S. Postal Inspection, U.S. Customs Border Protection, of course, HSI, and as well as Arlington PD. This operation was a massive lift, and it wasn't just because of deconfliction or communication, but it was across agencies. And it took a lot of coordination between our case agents, our leaders standing up here. The U.S. Attorney's Office was great, and it was instrumental in this. As the judge said, we hit search warrants everywhere from Florida all the way up to New York and all the way as far out as California. Also in Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania. The criminal and cartel networks ignore boundaries and dividing lines. And to strengthen our enforcement capabilities as the United States government, we have to break down those boundary lines in between our agencies. And I believe that's what the HSTF was designed to do. The Homeland Security Task Force was designed to do. We can all benefit from the unique expertise from each one of these agencies standing up here, including my own. We all have different attributes that we bring collectively to the fight. Target enforcement works. Whether it be in Washington, D.C. or in Memphis, Tennessee, it works. This operation took dangerous individuals and dangerous poisonous drugs and substances off the street. Criminals who, with that type of poison that they peddled here in the district, particularly to our precious youth, caused significant harm to our community. And I will say this as a father of kids, it scares me when it comes to this GBL and what it can do. More than a dozen liters of GBL were taken just in this area. A precursor chemical, as the judge said, that can be used to create the date rape drug, especially with all the colleges across our area. Our city and our children are safer because of this investigation and this partnership in the judge's office. For that, I personally thank everybody up here. I thank you for your time, your effort, and everything you did to make this case successful. Again, we're here to answer the call of whatever America needs. We're here to safeguard. Judge, thank you for having me up here.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I'd like to call on Homeland Security, HSI Washington, D.C. Special Agent in Charge, Eric Weindorf.
Thank you, U.S. Attorney Pirro. Good afternoon, Eric Weindorf, Homeland Security Investigations Special Agent in Charge for Washington, D.C. Thank you for joining us today as we announce the results of a Homeland Security Task Force investigation that struck at the heart of dangerous narcotics network operating in our nation's capital. Over the past several months, HSI has contributed to this investigation by working side by side with our partners here today, following the supply chain from an international parcel to a local distributor, and then up the chain to a larger network. This investigation disrupted a network that was pumping highly addictive, highly dangerous drugs into our neighborhoods. It cannot be overstated. Every single drug seizure that we make is less poison on our streets and in our communities. This is a textbook example of what Homeland Security task forces are built to do. And this success was only possible because of the partnerships with other agencies behind me, especially the DEA, and would not have been possible without the aggressive posture of U.S. Attorney Pirro and her dedicated prosecutors. Simply put, Homeland Security task forces turn intelligence into action and action into results. To those who traffic in drugs and violence, there is no corner of this city or this country where you can operate with impunity. Together with our partners, HSI will not allow criminals to profit, endangering our communities, and HSI is committed to devoting all necessary resources to the President's executive order to make DC safe and beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, IRS Assistant SAC Cynthia Hearn, the Washington, D.C. Field Office.
Thank you, Judge Pirro. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cynthia Hearn. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Washington, D.C. Field Office for IRS Criminal Investigation, and I'm honored to be standing here today with our other federal law enforcement partners to announce the indictment targeting individuals involved in transnational drug trafficking. IRS Criminal Investigation special agents are often called upon to lend their financial and tax expertise in complex investigations, this being one of them. The defendants in the case sought to conceal the money they made from their illegal methamphetamine and GBL sales by creating sham companies and attempting to hide cash deposits, bank transfers, peer-to-peer payments, as well as international wires as legitimate business revenues and expenses. The entirety of the business activity was conducted to launder illegal money and hide their drug activity from law enforcement. The scheme unraveled when IRS CI, along with DEA, HSI, Postal, and the hard work of the U.S. Attorney's Office, working together to follow the money. Today's announcement demonstrates IRS Criminal Investigation's commitment to disrupting the illicit flow of money that enables narcotic traffickers to launder millions in illicit proceeds. Congratulations to all our law enforcement partners that are involved in this investigation. Thank you, Judge.
And thank you for the important work that you do. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And U.S. Postal Inspection Service, Washington Division, Assistant Inspector in Charge, Charles Wickersham.
Thank you,
Hello.
ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Charles Wickersham. I'm an Assistant Inspector in Charge for the U.S. Postal Inspection Service in Washington Division. The mission of the U.S. Postal Inspection Service is to support and protect the U.S. Postal Service, its employees, its infrastructure, its customers, enforce the laws that defend the nation's mail from against illegal or dangerous use, as we've seen here in this case, and to ensure the public trust in the integrity of the mail. Now, battling dangerous narcotics in the mail is one of our highest priorities. As these investigations have become more and more complex and expanded outside the borders of the United States, the Inspection Service has developed strategic partnerships like we have here today, our cyber and analytic capabilities, and invested in advanced technology. Relationships such as with the DEA, HSI, IRS CI, and of course, the Department of Justice are critical in our success to advance our mission and defend and enforce the laws that pertain to our nation's mail. So the Inspection Service utilizes its cyber and analytics technologies to enhance the investigative techniques and utilize data to target both international and domestic parcels. For over a decade, the Inspection Service has been involved in dark web investigations into vendors and the takedown of their illicit marketplaces. Our goal is to remove narcotics and contraband from the U.S. mail and to disrupt and dismantle these underground marketplaces. Now, employee safety has always been a top mission for the Inspection Service. While the Inspection Service is focused on removing these poisons from the mail stream, the U.S. Postal Service continues to focus on safety by reinforcing employee safety programs, engaging in comprehensive awareness campaigns, training, safety protocols, and deploying communications to all Postal Service employees. The Inspection Service also offers a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to the identification, arrest, and conviction of individuals mailing illegal drugs or proceeds. For more information, please visit our website. I'd just like to extend our deepest thanks on behalf of our agency and the entire Postal Service to everyone here behind me and to you, Judge.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And also behind me are prosecutors from my office, these three here who worked on the case. David Hennick is back there hiding. I don't know why. But anyway, any questions, folks? Yes, is it on topic?
Yes, out of ABC. I think just this, if you could get somebody to talk more about the South Korea aspect of this. I think when people think of illicit drugs being shipped into the U.S., they think of Mexico, they think of China. Not really known as one of the big ones, even though it has some of the strictest drug laws in the world. I'd just would be fascinated to hear a little more about the South Korea side.
Yeah, well, I think the amazing part of it for us is that we were the ones who alerted the South Korean law enforcement regarding this individual who was the drug trafficking queen who was exporting the GBL from South Korea. And it was the largest seizure from that has ever been made in South Korea. But I don't know who wants to talk about this. George Eliopoulos. I'm going to let him talk and answer the question.
Good afternoon, everybody.
He's a prosecutor.
I hope we don't clash.
No worries.
As the judge said, South Korea was manufacturing GBL. A huge amount of GBL was being created by Miss An and her corporations. GBL does have some legitimate uses. For example, it might be found in truck cleaning solutions. It might be found in other types of legitimate, but Miss An was using it for purposes of having it consumed by individuals as an illicit drug. And the people that she was selling it to, again, they were attempting to acquire the illicit drug in order to redistribute it together with methamphetamine in the United States. So it was created in South Korea, but it was created for purposes of being used as an illicit drug to be used with methamphetamine.
Yes, sir.
So I take it this person is in South Korea. Is there, I think we have an extradition treaty with them. Is there a plan to extradite her to request that?
Well, she's in prison right now in South Korea. She's not going anywhere. I imagine that if and when we get to the point where there's any information she's going to be released, then we would consider it, but it depends upon the amount of time she's serving there. It was the largest seizure of its kind. I doubt that, and this stuff is taken very seriously in South Korea. So I don't think she's getting out very soon. No, I just get that, no.
So where are the other, the 11 individuals? You mentioned that one was arrested. How many are pending?
Pretty much all of them have been arrested. 7 were arrested last week. 2 more in California today. 1 more kind of as a result of an additional search warrant. And I think that there is 1 that we're still looking for. No, does not include her. She's not in our indictment. No. Yes, sir.
So there's 1 that's still at large. What is the charge against all of them that's 10 to life?
The charge that's that they have that's 10 to life is the conspiracy. Oh, right. Conspiracy to distribute and possess with intent to distribute 500 grams or more of a mixture containing detectable amounts of methamphetamines. That is life. That is a life sentence. The one that's 10 years is the possession with the intent.
It's all 10 to life.
Yeah, it's all 10 to life.
And then secondly, you recently got an indictment against Cole Allen.
Yeah.
He's going to be in court on Monday. Can you tell us anything more about what you've learned that led to that indictment? But also, there's some reports that he may have been inspired by or may have been upset by the war in Iran, and that may have led to his actions. Is there any accuracy to that?
There's no accuracy that I'm aware of, but I want to be very clear about this. You know, everybody's got a conspiracy theory, and that's one of the reasons we put out as much information as we can and videos as quickly as we can. You know, I don't really care about what motivated the guy. The only thing I care about is his intent. And as far as I'm concerned, the intent is very clear. He wanted to assassinate the president and anyone who got in his way, in addition to cabinet members. And so that intent is what I need to prove in a court of law. Whatever made him decide that is not my concern. And it's all guesswork at this point. You're going to have to ask him. Yes, sir.
That started all of this, who that victim was?
Yeah, that victim is not at all connected to this case. Okay. But what it did was it kind of opened our eyes to the fact that there were drugs that were being used that we then started to track in terms of the GBL and the other stuff. We're not saying that any of this had to do with that overdose.
And nor can you trace any of the indicted individuals to a specific
No.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. I only brought it to you as background, kind of context, like where did this start? Do you want to say anything else? Yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah.
as long as we're talking context, you talked about the crime statistics issues in DC. How satisfied are you that the statistics you're getting from Metropolitan Police now are accurate? And what does it say to you that so many, 13 high-ranking individuals had to be removed from their jobs?
I'm not surprised. We did an investigation starting in August before anybody else did because we knew that those stats were deflated. They actually took categories of crime like assault with a dangerous weapon and reduced it to reckless endangerment. They took burglary and reduced it to unlawful entry. They took, theft of property and reduced it to lost property. They would go to a drugstore and the drugstore would call and say, we had a robbery today, last week, the week before. And they say, you know what? We'll come in once a month and you give us a book with the robberies. And they counted it as one. So right now, I give President Trump more kudos because let me finish, because he actually got crime down lower than we thought it was, because crime was higher than we said it was. And we referred that to the MPD, to Internal Affairs, to take whatever action they think is appropriate, and they're taking them. And let me add one more thing. I think Chief Carroll is terrific, and he's running a great department right now. If there was a crime, we would have. The question is whether or not there is sufficient information that maybe IAD has unearthed that contributes to that. They'll let us know, but we didn't. We interviewed more than 51 people and 6,000 separate police reports. We did our work on this thing, and it was real clear what was going on. Yes.
And going off of that, have you seen NPD's internal report? And if so, how does that compare to your report?
I haven't seen their internal report. I imagine I will at some point. I'm not worried about that. Okay, last question.
Your office announced an effort, a few months back to really crack down on people bringing guns into DC. You obviously saw the incident at the Correspondents' Dinner, the incident just a couple of days ago on the National Mall. Where does that effort kind of stand from your office?
Well, clearly the individuals, both the Secret Service, the situation at the National Mall near the Washington Monument, involved an individual who took out a gun and tried to kill the Secret Service agent, and also shot a young man who was visiting the nation's capital with his family. Cole Allen came across the country to kill the president and anyone else he could. I mean, those are illegal weapons that are being used in crimes, and we will prosecute them to the full extent of the law. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. You got to talk today.